city, creating these community gardens. They've been here for 19 years now. The soil has been amended for 19 years. We have learned how to garden in the desert here. This is an asset for our city, for all of us. Because all you have to do is come and ask me how to garden here, and I can tell you, okay? This is an asset for our city. Because I have worked here for 10 years, I know what works and what doesn't, okay? So our gardens are very precious to us. We love our gardens. People love their gardens. This is a quiet, beautiful spot to come and garden. Just this morning, Limpy, the coyote, was in the gardens digging up carrots because he's hungry. Okay? This is where the wildlife comes. This is where wildlife comes. If you want to see quail or anything, this is where you come to see.
Kids dig earthworms.
And we have kids are over there right now digging worms in the worm digging station. People come from the neighborhood and bring their kids over here to dig for worms because they love it. This is a wonderful place. Leslie DeFalco and I asked a landscape architect to create a plan for this whole area, this whole garden. And this is the plan that they came up with. And I have copies of the plan if you'd like to take a look at it. I have what you can do about this garden. And this won an award from the Nevada chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects. So this was not just junk, okay? Landscape plan. This was actually an award winning. If you go on this architect's website, you'll see that she doesn't have very many awards, but this one won an award, okay? So we can do something with this whole park. We shouldn't be talking about just the gardens. We shouldn't be talking about just the sculpture garden or just the building. It's the whole thing. We need to have a name for this whole thing, and we need to have it zoned a park. We need to prevent the city from selling it. And I just want to say one thing. I have contacted Scott Hansen about our water before, and the one thing he told me, he says, well, why don't I just turn it off? Well, that's what they've done. So this is what we're up against with our city. So I have copies of this landscape plan. I have things to sign up here, and I have a sheet on what you can do, and there's other sheets on what you can do. The email addresses for your city council members. Let them know you want to protect this park. And we need to do something more. We need to have like another meeting or something. So I want to open it up for questions. Any questions that you have for Kieran and Ray or Lynn or me, please ask them now, or you may want to step up so everybody can hear. Yeah.
Let everyone know while it's quiet. The 9th of April, we have a room reserved at the library for further discussion at 6 p.m.
Great. Good. So put your name and contact information. Let you know about the next meeting.
I'd like to say a few words.
Sure.
My name is Linda Schrick, and I live in the house up here on the corner, and I overlook this park. I've had the house since 1992. I helped to construct this garden brick by brick. We worked on it 19 years ago. We had a garden for 5 years. I have been sued by the city for becoming an activist for the good of the city. It was not a pleasant experience, and it gave me the jeebers. About 9 years ago, we were working on a plan for this building, which I love because I sit on my porch and it reminds me of Italy or Spain or someplace beautiful. It's beautiful architecture. And to just let it sit and be vandalized, the copper's been stripped out of there, it's been vandalized over and over and over. Yeah, we come together and we do things with our own money and our own time, and then the city is going to take a piece of land that somebody donated to the city for the use of the people, a reflection center. I see people here all the time, elderly people sitting here. I've seen people sitting there crying because they just need to be in a peaceful place. We can grow our own vegetables here. My God, I think kids need to learn you don't go to Whole Foods to get your vegetables. These uppity people who go to Whole Foods all the time don't know what it's like to live here and have no codes, no zoning rules about properties that are allowed to disintegrate, but their properties aren't disintegrating. I have had problems with Scott Hansen, and at one point he called the police on me, and 6 officers were there responding to me. I'm 79 now. At that time I was about 71. And the officer said, as they escorted me from the building, after I made my point and said, I'm glad I have witnesses, they said, you have to do things in another way here. And I said, I've tried that. I have a presentation here that I wanted to read at the city council. I didn't get the time. Nobody paid any attention. So this is what we're up against. Nobody would like to see this look the way it looks now, or better, more than me, because I look at it every day. This used to be a dirt lot with dust blowing it all over the place. So I'm ready to get involved again, lawsuits or not.
So I hope you'll all forgive me, but I'm going to have a little bit of alternative point of view, and you'll still love me after this. Anyway, my name's Alan Goya, and I'm also a member of the Historic Preservation Committee. I kind of look at it a little bit differently as far as the idea of being a ballot question if the city should sell this land or not. One of the things I think is the great freedom of Boulder City is like we control so much of who we are. I mean, it goes to the vote of the people, which is us. I think, I kind of disagree. I think the perspective we should be looking at this at is that it allows us to look at alternative ideas. Just because we put it on the ballot and says, the ballot initiative just says the city is allowed to sell it. Doesn't mean they will sell it or they have to sell it, but after that process, what will come out is a request for proposals. And the ideal is that why are we afraid of ideas? These are just ideas. These are people that come, and I personally feel in order to get this thing, in the 80s and the 90s, there was a tremendous piece of energy that kind of created the gardens and the sculptors and, started the process. In my view, we kind of like stopped about 1/3 of the way, and we kind of stalled out, whatever it was.
Well, I don't think we should say we stalled out.
Well, it's a recession.
I think that's inaccurate to say that.
Well, something stalled out, I feel like, but I do feel the most important thing is that the people that should first come on, the first ones at the table and making them happy is the Libbies, the Lindas, the sculptors. These are the peoples. If these people are not happy, I don't think we should move forward. I mean, I don't care. To me, it's not an idea of should we sell the land or should we not sell the land. It's about ideas. What are the ideas that the public can give us? What are the ideas that the private sector can give us? It doesn't mean we have to sell the whole thing. I mean, we can make covenants to say, let's save the gardens, let's not move the park, but let's maybe there is, another alternative. Maybe there's a tea shop there. Maybe there is something that's low impact. I mean, but I think it's going to be a combination of private and public efforts, especially in the money side. And I feel like a vote of the people is, that is our biggest asset in this town. We control the land.
But that's actually an outcome, Alan. That's one of the alternatives that could have been discussed, but it was the alternative that was being put out there.
Well,
okay, so that was a step that was already being decided on rather than doing all the work you're talking about of getting feedback from everybody as far as what should be done.
Well,
it was an action that was going to be taken.
And maybe it is premature for the city to say, let's put it on the ballot. But I do think,
Alan, because the city brought the developer who's been waiting for 10, 15 years. The very developer who's been waiting. It's no secret. We know who wants it.
Yeah.
And they brought him there, and you were supportive of that. And
I'm just supportive. I'm supportive of an idea. Somebody who comes with an idea. Don't you want to listen to these ideas rather than just turning people down?
I'd like to interject something. I with Linda and Barbara here and Fran, we all live up here.
Right.
And we have fought battle after battle with the city, and we have lost every single time. We fought over having some land developed up here. We have 3 horrible lots up there that the developer just had to have. Everybody in our area, they never listened to us. We went to meetings, and this is what has happened to all of us who live here. I'm like Linda, I'm like Barbara, I'm like Fran. We see people use this area. I sit up there on my deck, and they're right. People are on the benches, they're crying. But the city does not listen to you. You go to those meetings, they give lip service, and you turn around and the developer has had his way. So to me, to let any developer to get involved with this, we're lost.
Hey guys, just think of it this way, if we give it to a developer, he won't have to put any plywood, it's already there for him. Right. You know, the new private owner, we did the work. I hope we don't have to take down the artwork though. You know, maybe they'll let us keep that.
I'm new here and all that, but a couple years ago, a developer just had to have that hospital torn down. And now it's a pile of dirt.
Yep.
I
Yes.
stood up
Sitting
and
there.
asked them
Yes.
to demolish it at city council. He stood up and he supported a demolition permit being issued. A few months later, he was nominated to the preservation committee, where in my opinion, he has no business being.
Oh,
Well, I'm just saying that developer had to have that land, and it sits two years a pile of dirt.
I just want to, the water source that Scott Hansen told you couldn't use and turned off.
Yeah.
Is that the only water source for this garden?
No, they turn it on when they want to turn it on. We
But
can't turn it
Is
on.
that the only water source?
They put a faucet over there, but we had a hose that could reach most of the gardens, and now it won't reach any of them. So
Well, who told them they could shut the water off to the sprinkler systems and stuff?
it's off.
Oh,
If it's not running, it's off.
The sprinklers are on. They
They turn the
spray 3
sprinklers on
minutes.
when they want to.
I'm Cheryl Waits. I've been a member of the community garden since 1999, and I wanted to speak on each of the pieces and to thank everyone for coming out so that we could have some solidarity in this. I know that when you spoke, hi Lynn, hi. I know when you spoke about the park, the upkeep of it, approximately 8 years ago when we were working on, we had a committee that I worked with you, thank you, for ideas of preserving the building. At that time, Friends of the Arts had also wanted to do some additional gardens and cleanup of the park side, which I came on board with that, and being a volunteer with Friends of the Arts for all those years, I was out every day. Those of you that are neighbors are probably used to seeing me each morning there when I had my Scotty dog and my Schnauzer. But in the past year, because that I have not been out, is the reason why that the park has become run down. And we have, I wanted to say...
Cheryl, let me ask you something though. This is city property, is that correct?
It's a city property.
Okay, so it's not up to the individual citizens at this time to be
Right.
maintaining things up there, and it certainly isn't something that just you needs to address.
That's right.
Yeah, but please let me finish. When you adopt a park, part of yours, the city takes care of the city priorities like irrigation and like the big structure and maintenance, and then you have get-togethers and events where that you come out and you pull weeds and tidy up and take note of what work needs to be done, because it has to be an open communication for the city to know. They can't fix it if they don't know what's broke. I'm not talking about the gardens, I'm just talking about on that side. So there is a international garden initiative, and so at that time we started the Wilbur Weed Garden Initiative through the museum. And so now Wilbur Weed Garden Initiative is now going to be the stewards of the park. Just this past week that they were granted. And so we have a lot of groups in the community as well as citizens that will be coming out to do things. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because when we fought for the hospital, it was very hot and very cold. You were either all for it or you were dead set against it, and it caused a lot of the bad in people to come out. And we were really a divided community. And the city, I feel, kind of knew that gave some leverage. It took some leverage away from us. And this really is such a precious commodity to us, this parcel of land, that I just want us to make sure that we're out promoting not how much that we're in it for the fight, but how much that we love this property, that we'll do anything
I
that we
believe that's what
can.
everyone has already spoken
So,
to, Sharon.
well, that's because I wanted to invite everyone in April. We're also going to have a community planting and a nice event, and we want to make sure that we have it out to the community, the positive things that we're doing, not that we're on a corner with a petition trying to get people, over to our side. We want to be, I just wanted to say I want to do everything possible we can in a positive nature, and especially for the gardens, because Libby's worked so hard, harder than any of us here too. So thank you.
Excuse me for sitting. I'm still not 100%, and please pass also my excuses on for a bad voice. But I want to say first off, contacting your councilman works. I received letters, emails, and things on top of this, and I was one of the people who was favorably disposed to sell this property, to repurpose it for a development. However, in looking at the past history of Boulder City, I don't think we can repeat the mistakes of the past. The property at the hotel, the historic hotel, was transferred and sold to an entity that had no intention of ever providing it to a developer downstream. But things changed, and they sold it. And the city had no recourse. They had no skin in the game any longer. So my idea is, don't repeat that same mistake. Keep the ownership. If you want to develop it commercially, why don't we follow the same template of the El Dorado Valley, where we leased hundreds of acres of land to commercial ventures, provides about a third of the revenue to the city, where we could have a lease to a developer who makes a proposal for an acceptable project that would add to the community. Secondly, I think the community gardens, I lived here 36 years, and I really was not aware of the community gardens. But I think what should happen is, whatever the controlling group for the community gardens should apply for RDA money, have an architect, a horticulture architect, come in and make the thing a prime example of a community garden. The other element, let's see what else is the art sculpture. From what I found out, the art sculpture at Reflections Park is really not an official park of the city. So it must be adopted by the city. It must be brought up to code, so all of any potential safety issues can be resolved. So I see a comprehensive plan of let's get Reflection Park within the control and of the city. Let's beautify the existing community gardens and expand it, and also have more public information. Like I said, 36 years and I didn't know what the community gardens were. And again, this building, like many of our historic structures, has many stories yet to tell. We should not rip it down. We should not sell it. We should preserve it so that the fabric of our history is preserved in these things. It shows what our value structure is. And so I had changed my mind. I no longer support the sale of this property to a private developer.
Master plan.
What's your feeling on the airport? Should it be sold?
Neighborhood parks, and Reflections Park is listed as a neighborhood park. So I don't know what we have to do to make a park that's on our master plan become a park, but we should do whatever that is.
It's zoned neighborhood commercial.
Right.
We should have it zoned. It's neighborhood commercial. We should have this zoned a public park. It's been a public park for 20 years. Let's make sure we can zone it a public park and continue to use it for the next 100 years or more.
We have to demand it if we want it.
Yeah.
We have to go to city council meetings. And it's a lot of fun, guys, and a lot of us will go and have a beer afterwards or coffee and chat, and it becomes a social thing as well. I'd encourage you to go. I never used to go, and I go whenever I can. And also the Historic Preservation Committee meetings, it would be great if the public were showing up more, because often there's only 1 or 2 people there, and you know, if we really value this stuff, we have to get involved. And I wasn't involved at all, and I've made tons and tons of new friends just in the last 2-3 years by getting involved in this stuff, and I encourage you to get involved too.
Ray,
Neil?
the next meeting is Tuesday, right?
Wednesday.
City Council.
The Preservation Committee meeting is this Wednesday at 7.
But the city council?
City Council, I'm not sure, Kieran.
I think it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So,
Will that be on the agenda?
No, but you can get up at the end of any city council meeting and speak publicly, and you can watch it live at home on TV even if you want, and then just come on down later in the evening and say your piece, and just to encourage them to do the right thing, because that makes all the difference. You know, people are watching, interested, because a lot of times I think they think we don't care, we couldn't be bothered, and it's easy to, you know, good people make bad decisions. I'm not saying anybody's a bad person, you know, but good people do make bad decisions, and what's being proposed here is a very, very bad decision. And it's been decided before obviously it's been decided, you know. Like I said to Alan, the developers are being brought to the meeting unannounced with big plans, and you know, nobody else would be allowed to speak to us like that. They'd be told, I'm sorry, you're not on the agenda. You can't just show up here. You can wait till the end. But these guys are given special treatment, and I resent that, you guys. And that's why I'm Irish, okay? So forgive me if I'm a little overly passionate. But we have to do something about it now. It's our turn. It's our turn. Someone else will do it 10, 15 years from now. It'll be another group of people. And we'll get somewhere.
One thing we need to really understand, and I think most of you do, is we have to get rid of this good old boy scratching each other's backs.
There you go.
You know, this is bullshit. And they only work for themselves, and they only work for profit. And if you were, Ray, I know you're not, but if you were the mayor's best friend, you'd have that building tomorrow.
Exactly. It would be mine.
So this has got to end.
Like that, I know.
You know.
That's how it works, and I resent that too. I hope you all do as well, because we're fortunate. We have a small little place here that we can get involved in and control. Yeah, so there's all this crazy stuff going on out in the rest of the world, but we're very fortunate. We got something good here, and it's not that hard for us to get involved and make sure we keep it good, because that's why we're here, right?
Yep. That's why.
You know?
I think Neil's waiting to speak.
I'm happy enough with the brewery we have. You know, I don't need to, like I said, pay $12 for a bad stout.
Let's give Neil a
Only an Irishman can say that.
The historic district is all one thing. Here, the hangar, birch, cherry, ash, the avenues. We're here today putting out one fire. If you do a 25-year time lapse, we've put out fires all over the historic district. John Pfeffer wanted to tear down a shopping center across from the post office and put in a 2-story structure. Rod Woodbury's sister wanted to convert the Water and Power building into a 3-store meeting hall for Red Mountain Choir. Half of Ash was zoned commercial, and we put that back to residential. A city manager wanted to turn Birch and Ash into little shops. It goes on and on of different fires that we put out, and it's all one thing because there isn't an overall plan and awareness. The Browder building was almost lost. I didn't see the city really do much to try to do that. I thought that they worked against it. I've seen the city do next to nothing, and almost cynically, it appears they're working against historic preservation. If I'm not mistaken, there was a 4-to-1 vote, was it, to put the hangar on the ballot? So there's lip service to historic preservation. We need to focus on it organically as one big thing rather than putting out little fires, and realize that this is going to be the draw to bring tourists into Boulder City when the bypass opens, and to preserve it for all of us. There is a code section that was put in to the city code where you can go into the downtown, tear down any of those buildings, put up a 2-story building, cover the whole lot, build a modern building, and that building will produce more income and be more profitable than having an historic building. So as time goes on, there's more of an incentive for tearing down the downtown than for keeping it. But the hangar, in a perfect world, Alan is correct. We aren't living in a perfect world. We're dealing with a council that either doesn't see or isn't for historic preservation, and it's up to us to look at the whole picture. The hangar shouldn't be on the ballot because we would lose control, and Alan is right. If we could, I guess for me, cynically, the word is trust the majority of the city council, I would be for it, but I'd be in favor of keeping this, the hangar, and increasing awareness of historic preservation rather than we meet here today and there tomorrow and there tomorrow and they keep us running around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else with a question? Yes.
I want to bounce off what Neil just said. We have, by state law, we had to declare a historic district, but we have no preservation laws like in a normal city that have any teeth to them. So that's a big battle that's coming up. I'm on the Planning Commission. As I read the Nevada state laws, the Planning Commission has the authority to create the zoning for a city. So we need to get into this and realize that we must have some historic preservation laws with teeth, or we'll see the slow destruction of our city. And the idea of selling a city park to a private individual, it's an idea, but it's an idea that scares me. Because once you set that precedent, you can sell parks off to private individuals that want to get their hands on it, what will be left of our city as historic Boulder City? So it's a terrible idea to sell this to a private individual. It's on our master plan as a park. Apparently we have to get a battle to change this to be an official park. I don't know why it can be on our master plan as a park and not be zoned as a park, but this is an example of zoning laws, and people have incentive to fight zoning laws.
The master plan supersedes the zoning. They have to be compatible, or I believe the master plan takes jurisdiction. They shouldn't have made this commercial without a change to the master plan.
That's my understanding also, so I don't quite understand why this isn't a park, but we got to look into that. But certainly on the Planning Commission, you got one person that supports this being a park and supports some preservation laws that have some teeth in it, so we're not fighting all the fires all the time.
Good point, yes.
Anyway, this is really pretty amazing because my feeling is like, this should, obviously I don't think the city should sell this piece of property, and mainly because like I said again, I think the first people that you have to make happy are the people that are. You guys are making it happen. You are the community. You are making it. You've put in 20 years, 30 years of effort into this, and you have to be the first ones to be happy. And I agree. But I think we still have to organize, because if we just stop something and we do nothing for the next 10 years, then what do we accomplish? When we're not. It's really. I'm of the age. It's not just me. It's for my kids, really. It's like, okay, what are we leaving them? My kids and my what are we? That's the question we have, before us. And so, on May 12th is Historic Preservation Day in Boulder City, and I invite you. And we're going to have it at the LA Water and Power Building for the first time, and it's going to be sponsored by the LA Water and Power. And we're going to feature tours of the old Executive Lodge. But at that, the subject of the event is repurposing of historic buildings. And I invited Libby, and I talked to Steve, and so bring your ideas and plans to that event. We're going to have tables in the LA Water and Power, where if you have an idea, you have a drawing, a concept, you're more than welcome to have a space at that table, and let's have it a place where we can talk about ideas. And part of this thing is just not just the gardeners or the sculptors. You know, it has to be in combination of all these people. That, you know, and it's got to work in with this building. But let's bring our ideas together and talk about what we can do, and so we can figure out. Let's put a price tag on these things, and then let's raise the money to get it done.
And
What
this
time is
building,
that
this
meeting?
building will be open on May 12th if anybody wants to take a walk through it as well.
What time is the meeting on May 12th?
What time?
What time on May 12th?
It starts at 9, so we're to start at 9 o'clock. Is to be registered. If you want to go on the tour to see the historic, the lodge building, only 10 people at a time can be allowed up there. So we'll be signing up from 9 to 10 for the tours. But then the static displays from 10 to 12, you know, people will be around. You can discuss the displays. We'll have a luncheon, free luncheons. We have a sponsor, LA Water Power, is picking up the lunch. And they are, we're going to have a panel discussion with Heidi Swank. She's the executive director of the Nevada Historic Foundation. She'll be moderating a panel that'll include Dennis McBride of Boulder City, an historian here. You know, Mark Hall Patton, Leslie Woodbury from the museum, and Alan, the other Alan,
Stromberg.
Yeah, Stromberg will be on that panel, and the subject will be historic repurposing of buildings. And we're hoping to get some like examples from you know, other communities in the state, and say, oh, this is what Reno did, this is what Vegas did, this is what you guys could do. Here's a funding model, here's the business plan. You know, part of these things is not just about, I want this to be this, or I want this to be this. Somebody has to come up with a business plan and say, okay, how this is going to work, you know, and that's the real challenge.